Hey guys, and welcome to a new unit of our course. The name of the unit today is Uses of Modal Verbs. Welcome! The objective of this unit is to learn uses of modal verbs. I say other uses because in the last unit we learned the use of modal verbs for speculations. You learned to speculate using modal verbs for situations in the present and in the future. In this case, you're going to learn other different uses of modal verbs. Today, you're going to learn 3 different uses of modal verbs. The first one is modal verbs for necessity. Then we're going to see some examples of modal verbs for offering recommendations. And at the end, we're going to see some examples of how to use modal verbs for obligation or for prohibition. So let's go with the first one, modal verbs of necessity. These are the modal verbs we use when we talk about something, an activity that is necessary or that we need to do. For example, we use must, have to, have got to, when something is necessary, when there is an activity that you need to do, or we use don't have to in case that it is not necessary. Let's say that you're trying to become famous making videos for TikTok. These are some things that are necessary for you to do. You don't have to buy the most expensive equipment, but you have to use a cell phone that has a good camera. A good camera is really necessary. You must have an internet connection to upload the videos and create a marketing strategy. You've got to learn how to use the platform. You need to go through the specifications of the platform and know how to use it. And you don't have to make the same things that everyone is doing. It's a good idea to be original. The modal verbs that we use to give recommendations or advice or tips to other people are had better, ought to, should, and shouldn't. Remember that after the modal verbs, what we do is use the base form of the verb. So for example, you say, you had better or you'd better do something. You ought to do something. You should do something or you shouldn't do something. Is this your first time learning how to drive or getting a driving license? These are some tips that might help you. First, you should be patient because learning how to drive and getting a driving license takes time. You ought to get a good driving instructor or finding a good driving school. It's a very good idea. You'd better save some money first because in Colombia it's quite expensive to get a driving license. It might cost between 1 million or 1.5 million pesos. You shouldn't be afraid because learning how to drive is actually not very difficult. You don't have to follow these recommendations because these are just recommendations. You can do what it feels right. And these are the modal verbs we're going to use for obligation or prohibition. In case, for example, there is a law that tells you that something is mandatory or something is an obligation, or in case there are some regulations or standards that tells you what things you can't do. So in this case, we use must when something is mandatory, or when you're not allowed to do something, or when you don't have permission to do something, you use can't. Are you traveling abroad in the future? You must have a passport. Without a passport, you can't board a plane or leave the country. You must have a visa issued in the embassy of the country that you're planning to visit. For example, if you're planning to visit Canada, you must have a Canadian visa. You are allowed to travel with support animals or pets to some countries. Most of the times, you must get a permission. You can't travel on a commercial planes with big animals like cows or donkeys. It's not allowed. You don't have permission. Thank you very much, guys. I hope that now you can use modal verbs to express necessity or to make recommendations or offer advice, and modal verbs to talk about obligations or prohibitions. Thank you very much. See you in class. Let me know your comments or questions. Bye.